and welcome back to my channel, BethChatsBooks. Now today I'm going to give you my top 5 reads of 2021. But before I do that, I'm just gonna give you a bit of an update on what's been happening. So for the past 2 months I've been really busy. I've had uni work, I'm slowly changing my job. I'm staying with the NHS, but my role within the GP practice is going to change, but that's only going to happen in the next few months. So I'm still working crazy long hours at the moment, but I have moved out of my father's place and I'm currently in a house share. So I'm sharing with other people, but I have my own room and my own space, so it's really good. I'm really enjoying that at the moment, but life's been a bit hectic, so that's why I've not filmed anything recently. And I came to look at the books I'd read in 2021 and realised I couldn't remember half of them, and I don't think it was a bad reading year. I just think that I didn't really enjoy and have as many 5-star reads as I probably did in 2020, but I read so much in 2020. So I actually found it hard to compile a top 10. So I'm sorry if there's shaking, I'm propping it up on pillows at the moment, my iPad to film. I think once I'm more settled I'll find a new arrangement to film, but I have loads of books back here. I'm kind of filming on my bed at the minute and it's a bit of a mess, there's a bit of clutter, so I didn't want you guys to see that. So anyway, I've decided that a top 5 would be easier, because I haven't had loads of standout reads and I can't remember a lot of the books that I'm going to mention as my top 5 because a lot of them were towards the first half of the year, but I feel like it would be strange not to do one because I have for the last few years. So let me just crack on with it. I will say, side note, I've told Robert from the channel Barter Hordes that I'm going to do the BookTube Prize again this year because I really enjoy doing it. So I have been sent an email and I've ticked which books I'd be interested in for next year. So I will be doing that and you will be seeing vlogs of that later on in the year. It's towards the end of this month that we will be confirmed which rounds we're doing and for which genres. So there is fiction and non-fiction, but this year I think there's translated fiction, which I have said I'm interested in, but I do think it will be quite difficult to get hold of some of the translated works, but we'll give it a try. And I thought it'd be exciting as a way for me to put more translated fiction on my future TBRs. So let's just crack on. So these are in no particular order. So the first one I want to talk about is The Push by Ashley Audrain. So this one I read right at the beginning of 2021, so my recollection is quite shaky. I went on to Goodreads to have a little look. So it follows a lady, Blythe, and her husband Fox, and they fall pregnant and have a child called Violet. And Blythe thinks that she's experiencing postnatal depression because she's not bonding with Violet, and she starts to notice that Violet has strange behaviours as she's getting older, that she's quite a cold child. And when she tries to talk to Fox about it, Fox says that she's being delusional and that that's not true and that she might be having problems of her own. Everything gets a little bit more complicated when she has a second child, a son. Forgotten the name of the son actually, and all the feelings that she didn't have with Violet she has with this new child. She falls in love with the child, and so this is a really interesting look at motherhood, at this wider debate of whether people can be born different and born cruel. And it's really highly charged. It's such a fantastic thriller style book. I remember racing through it And it raises some really interesting points. I know that April from Getting Hygge With It read it also this year and really enjoyed it. So I'd highly recommend reading it. I just feel bad because in hindsight I can't remember as many of the amazing things that I felt reading it now. But I think I do have a video where I discussed it. It might be in a playlist somewhere on my channel, so if you want to go and try and search that for more information, or you can look on my Goodreads because I did a Goodreads review of it. But it was really, really, really good, and I remembered it was just so dark, and you kind of wanted to believe that Blythe was right and there was something strange about Violet because you were reading it from her point of view and seeing these strange things. But I won't spoil it, but there are some interesting twists at the end that I didn't see coming. And then the next one is Hidden Valley Road by Robert Colker. This is a non-fiction, and this looks at a family where it's quite a large family. There's 2 daughters and multiple sons. I think there's about 5 sons, or even more than that, I can't remember. But quite a high portion of the sons are diagnosed with schizophrenia. And the family were diagnosed at a time in America where schizophrenia wasn't really understood. Some of the sons spend time in mental institutions, and it looks at the family tree, at all the sons that were affected, and the sons and the daughters that weren't. It goes into a lot of detail about the parents as well. It's a really in-depth family history, and I just found it so fascinating using this family as a case study to try and explain the evolution of the treatment of people with schizophrenia and how we've evolved to better understand these conditions, but how this particular family were treated and how the effect of family members with schizophrenia had an impact on the people without. So there's quite distressing bits in it where the sisters talk about sexual and physical abuse they experienced from their own brothers who suffered from schizophrenia because they were not diagnosed and they were not on a treatment plan. And yeah, it's a really interesting look at, and I find Robert Colker's writing fascinating. I really want to read Lost Girls, which is another non-fiction that he wrote, and that also has a series on Netflix, but I found it was so compulsively readable and it read like fiction, read like a family saga, but was really, really informative, and so much research went into it, and it really was stunning. It was on the BookTube Prize, and I think it went quite a long way, but I don't think it made it to the very end, which was quite disappointing. Yeah, it didn't make it to the top 3, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed it like me, and I think it was really well done. And I found a lot of non-fiction books, particularly through the BookTube Prize, were really interesting, and this one was a highlight for me. The next one I want to talk about is also another non-fiction, and that is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. This looks at America and Isabel Wilkerson, as a black African American, argues that America suffers from a caste system, and she uses the examples of India, of Nazi-occupied Germany, arguing that America fits into the same specification of what a caste system is, and she uses these other examples, and then she uses a lot of research, and she breaks down into what she thinks the components of a caste society are, and it is really fascinating and interesting, particularly because I've done a lot of reading and research around African American history, but not specifically looking at the argument of it as a caste system. So this was a really new way to look at a familiar topic for me. Again, Isabel Wilkerson is a fantastic writer, and it's a really compulsively readable non-fiction, and I think the key takeaway is it's very eye-opening. I know a lot of people have talked about caste, and this also was on the BookTube Prize, and I think it made it to the top 3, so was really highly respected by other judges on the BookTube Prize, and I think for good reason. I think if you're interested in African American history, if you're interested in this argument of how Isabel Wilkerson constructs this argument, that it is a caste system, then I would highly recommend this book, and I think you should go and read it. And then the next one is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So I read this quite recently, just before Christmas. It took me a very long time to read it, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I had a lot going on. I ended up securing this house share, and I was working flat out up until Christmas and into the new year, and I had an assessment the early few weeks of December, so there wasn't much time for reading. Eventually I got rid of all of those other things and was able to concentrate on it. This follows a group of students who are all studying classics at a New England university, and it follows their friendship and how one of the characters, we know from the beginning, is killed by the rest of the group, but we don't know why. And this really is a story of people's wickedness and the effect of that on other people, and this insidious nature of the effect and the grooming and the manipulation that people can have on other people. This almost feels very cult-like, and we see everything from Richard's perspective, who at the beginning of the book becomes part of this group, and Bunny is the victim at the end. And we kind of go from the beginning backwards a little bit, and we kind of see how Richard in hindsight is reflecting upon how he became part of the group, how he viewed each member of the group, and then what happened with Bunny and the after effects, and how his opinion of Bunny changes as the group's opinion of Bunny changes, and how he makes justifications for people's behaviour and his own for behaviour that is definitely seen as unacceptable, cruel, violent. So it's a fascinating psychological case study almost of how people become enamoured with other people and kind of indoctrinated into belief systems that on the surface seem absurd. So it's an incredibly dark book, and an incredibly long book, but Donna Tartt is a fantastic writer. She has such an intelligent way of speaking, and you can tell she feels comfortable in the world of the classics because she makes reference to things that the characters say that at points went over my head because I don't have a grounding in classics. But she has such a beautiful way with words. The way she constructs sentences, they're beautifully written. But I would say that this is an oppressively dark book, so if you're not in the headspace to read something that's quite draining emotionally, I wouldn't, but I think the payoff is superb. And I couldn't really for a long time put the characters down mentally, although I think a lot of their actions were completely deplorable. They still played on my mind a bit, and I would say the characters more haunt you than you connect with them, but I find that the profound effect it had on me highlights what an amazing writer she is. So I've read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt before, and I also really enjoyed that, but that is completely different to this. Much lighter and much more focused on plot. But I would read some more, and The Secret History was one that was her most famous, and I definitely think it lived up to the hype for me, which I'm quite surprised about, because I thought, because so many people have said it's so amazing, that I wasn't going to like it. But the more I sat with it over Christmas, the more I definitely think it was as amazing as was advertised to me by a lot of other book readers. So there's that one. And the final one was Hamlet by Maggie O'Farrell. I don't need to talk that much about it. It is about the life of Shakespeare and his wife. It's really from Agnes's point of view, which is his wife. Even though I know originally her name is Anne Hathaway, in the book she's known as Agnes. And it's about looking after the children, and then when her son Hamlet becomes ill, and how she copes with the fact that Shakespeare goes away to London to write plays. So it's a look at their marriage, it's a look at them as parents, and it's a look at the children. beautifully written, very poignant, quite sad, but I think a lot of people love having that viewpoint of Agnes, that I think a lot of literature around Shakespeare misses her and the important role she played as a mother and as a support system to Shakespeare. He does have a big presence in the novel while he's never named. I think he has a big part in the novel, but I think it's in relation to how Agnes interacts with him, as opposed to him being the star of the novel, because essentially Agnes and Hamlet are the stars of the novel. It's a lot more subtle and understated. I think it's mainly the only Maggie O'Farrell that I've read, but I would read more. I think I've read Instructions for a Heatwave, which again, like other authors I've mentioned in this video, it's so different in topic and tone to Hamlet. Hamlet was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I also read Bluebird and Blue Monday, which are the first books in series. So Bluebird is a series by Attica Locke, which is set in America, in kind of the south of America, and Blue Monday is the first one in the Frida Klein series that is written by Nikki French, which are a married couple who write thrillers, and I'm sure you've heard all of this from lots of other booktubers. So those were kind of mentions that I wanted to mention in this video, as I really enjoyed them, but I feel like I cannot add them into a favourites of 2021 list because they're part of a series. So I think ultimately they don't really belong in any given year unless you finish them all in one year and love them. So I just wanted to put them as like slight mentions. But that's everything. I will do another video really soon where I tell you what books I've got for the BookTube prize and start a vlog for that. So you will see me more frequently now. I just had a very unsettled past 2 months, so I wasn't able to give you my time and attention, but I'm hoping now that changes, and in between essays I'll be able to pop up with a video for you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all had a happy Christmas and New Year's, and that you're all doing really well, and I'll see you very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.